And Ali Vitali, I feel like you just came out of the post-game scrum. We're trying to find out. I know you were able to overhear, talk to a few committee members. Tell me what you've learned. Specifically, I'm curious what committee members said in their scrum about why now with the subpoena? Why not sooner?
Yeah, that's a central question, Chuck. And when you and I were on the special, you watched me nearly get plowed over by Chairman Benny Thompson as he was walking by us on his way out of the hearing room. But what he said is that this is the moment that the committee decided they were ready to move forward with subpoena charges for the former president. It's a question that I've asked Thompson dozens of times, at least since the start of these hearings this summer, but certainly even before that when they were in their earlier phases of the investigation. And it was clear after the first few hearings this summer that Trump was the focal point. He was the continuous thread through all of the January 6th committee's work. And that led us to the question in the press corps: what happens when you do a successful job of convincing anyone convincible in the country that the former president played a role in fomenting the insurrection on January 6th? Clearly now they have found at least one answer to that. I think the fact that it's unanimous is telling about what could happen if or when they do a criminal referral. It's something that the vice chair of the committee, Liz Cheney, said just a few weeks ago, that she expects that decision would be unanimous if and when they make it. So this is really a blueprint for that. But look, you make this point on the special, you've made it here as well. The fact that this all takes time. We've watched the ways that people have decided to ignore subpoenas and the way and how long it takes to grind that through the legal system. This committee is 50-50 with the DOJ actually enforcing contempt. And that was just for people like Steve Bannon, who they enforced it for, and Mark Meadows, who they did not. And so certainly there are questions here about what would happen if this lands at the feet of DOJ. But certainly this is an escalation for a committee that has really been searching for an answer to the question of what to do about former President Donald Trump. And that's the thing that most members here have been saying to me, is that this is a moment where I think many of them felt it was inevitable. They wanted to put this at least on the record, because the other thing that's true is that A, Trump is great at running out the clock, and that's kind of all he has to do here. But B, this committee also knows that this was not going to be something where they issued the subpoena and he probably complied, though that probably would be the case with Pence. And I'm interested to see if that's a road that they go down too.
I was just going to say, you pre-butted my next question to you, which was, when will we get it? If we haven't heard from them today on a subpoena for the former vice president, does that mean it's not going to happen? One would assume that the clock really is ticking here if they also want to write a final report before January 3rd, 2023.
Yeah, great minds, of course, Chuck. I think with Pence, look, he has said that if he's subpoenaed, he would consider at least going before the committee. And we know from my conversations with committee members that they have been in active conversations with his legal team trying to figure out what that could look like if they subpoena the former vice president. And by the way, all of the people in Pence's orbit who complied with this committee, both the people who just spoke in videotaped deposition, also the folks who came in as witnesses, they did so under subpoena. They had to be compelled in some fashion to come forward and talk to the committee. Mike Pence's political prospects are already very complicated over this issue. If he were to come in and be subpoenaed, they would be similarly complicated, I would argue. But that's also something that could take some time, and they are very much on the clock. And in talking to a member this morning, the view was, it's good that we're doing the hearings, the public deserves to know, and also it's time for us to wrap it up and start putting this all in our final report, which has to come December 31st or sooner.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.